What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the sixth album by rock band Three Doors Down. Basically, this product is called Us in the Night, and it came out in the winter of 2016. So the thing about this particular product is just the fact this is the most recent Three Doors Down album as of this particular point, just within the pitches behind it. But they took a pretty decent sized gap between this particular album and their album from 2011, which I think was called Time of Our Life or pitches like that. So I reviewed that recently, just like a month and a half ago. Pitches like that came out just in late September, just within the pitch behind it. But I look after it. Thing about it is Three Doors Down kind of had some lineup changes. I want to say that the lead guitarist from Three Doors Down from the year 2000 until 2011 was like Matt Roberts and pitches like that. And basically from their 2012 greatest hits album forward, it was Chet Roberts, which is a pretty good pitch here, but I look after it. The concept behind it is just the fact that it just feels like there was probably more brewing and just kind of the concept, but just like the pitch behind just like some disarrangements just within the pitch, because I just question as to why Three Doors Down has not dropped anything since early 2016, which is quite some time ago nowadays. I'd say that I want to say they've at least dropped some singles, maybe an EP or something, occasional type stuff. They put out a 20th anniversary of The Better Life from the year 2000. For the most part, this continues to be their most recent. It's just not common product or really commotion about Three Doors Down. Now, I realized that they had been around since the year 2000 with hits like Kryptonite and Loser and Duck and Run and some of those type pitches and Be Like That. But I look after just within the appeal. It's just interesting that most bands like Metallica still continues to put out records, AC/DC still continues to put out records, folks like that. There's plenty of folks from, before the year 2000, some of those type fairs. So it's just an interesting pitch. I mean, I look after it. It's a good concept kind of get this. I'm glad, like, as I was initially listening to this project, I thought I was only going to give it like a 3 or a 4 out of 10, but I upped the score quite a bit just within the tone behind it, because a lot of these did seem to spawn like some late some late fangled kind of highlights just within the pitch behind it. I mean, I realize the thing about this particular record is it does have like a little bit different composition. This I still miss like the moodiness of like probably one of their best records in terms of their personality appeal, which is Away from the Sun from 2002, and just the overall kind of dissonant kind of like this Fight Club and kind of more alternative rock type fold. Fight Club the movie and alternative rock type bar hopping of like The Better Life, some of those type fares. Their two earlier albums really had some of that appeal, but it's not quite as like modernized as like their 2005 album, and it's not quite as like this like it's not quite as stark as their 2008 album from what I remember. I need to purchase that album, but I look after just being able to say just within the concept behind it here, the actual aspect behind it is this record has a lot of differential type of feel. They really try to capitalize on like the up tempo songs on here more so. There's more songs like Duck and Run more so than songs like Kryptonite, which is a differential type pitch, because they really tried to. I think enough folks have probably complained about the fact that for the most part they've always kind of done moody kind of post grunge throughout most of their 2000s types albums, throughout most of their 2000s type albums and their 2010s their early 2010s projects. But I look after it, they try some new things. There are, like I was saying, there are songs on here like at least their first single, In the Dark, that attempt to be like Duck and Run, some of those type fares. I just would have to say behind it, there's actually more than 3 or 4 or even 5 songs that kind of have that up tempo snap. So it's a little bit more bar centric, but it's not quite as like claustral and cruise around as like time of my it's not quite as claustral and cruise around as like Time of My Life was from 2011, but I look after it. A lot of this is just kind of the standard bustle. It's just the traditional part of Three Doors Down that when you think of songs like Kryptonite and Duck and Run, some of those type ones, to just kind of some on the go type stuff just to kind of get just within the pitch behind getting shit done, having the bustle about it, getting some errands taken care of, tasks, some of that type fair bills paid, some of that type to standard makeshift and blue collar, just in a more traditional kind of bustle type sense. So I look after it. This album retains some of that. It's just a good aspect to kind of get it, but I look after it like for some strange reason it just feels like this particular album just does not like captivate like the true strengths. It's not to say I like this album's gonna get a pretty high score, but it's just kind of the concept when you think of like a classic hit by them like Kryptonite, or like a classic kind of personality type pitch from them, like some of the songs like that were off of Away from the Sun, like Here Without You, and some of those type ones, or even like the modernized type stuff that they did with their 2005 albums. Just kind of a different pitch that for some reason I don't want to say that this project doesn't feel as distinct because I haven't heard these songs as frequently as like the tone behind it, but I just look after it. these just seem to have less replay value in terms of the durability factor. Because I look after 8 years later, you would think that some of these songs would have like that standard staplage as far as that particular kind of goes. I look after it. This is standard complaints about a lot of things when you look after metal as far as that particular kind of happens. But it's kind of the same thing with their 2008 album. It's kind of the same thing with their 2011 album. Just some of these type errors. You know the drill by this particular stage as far as saying that most people kind of feel like their earlier records are the best parts, but I do think this is a quality type product. It's just kind of the factoid as far as saying I can at least admit that like the In the Dark song compared to Kryptonite is just not quite as biting. But I look after like the main concept about it's just a different type tone, but the familiarity is probably what matches this particular product because they do play to some of their strengths on here, but the aspect behind the difference in like the pitch behind how they deliver it's a little bit more shaky. So what I mean by that is you just get some new they have their old strengths on here, but the new strengths kind of are more frequent as to how they pop up. And then on top of that, the singles are just not quite as distinct just within the overall viciousness compared to some of their earlier days. So it just kind of makes a confusing type concept as if this is a bad album when it's really not. Well, let's get to that with the review. So basically, yeah, I just would have to say there are 3 singles off this product, just kind of here and there, just how quickly it basically kind of came about, but still has some relative spark about it. But I do feel like at least In the Dark is a pretty excellent type one. This is a song that hit #2 on the United. This is a song that hit #2 on the main rock charts in like the United States, I would say. So it's pretty excellent type pitch. This actually had some vicious type appeal, and really Still Alive was pretty sharp of a song too that hit #6 on the main chart. So just to say In the Dark is like a decently peppy kind of bar hop and heavy cruise out action to kind of get here. Just what I'd say is like the closest thing to Kryptonite's charm I'd have to feel like about this one. This kind of concept, this really nice club type song to kind of get within the aspect behind it. This feels a little bit more like a hard rock type tune compared to like Kryptonite's more alternative metal. I'd have to say I do miss Matt Roberts on the guitar on something like this. Not to say anything against Chet Roberts, but it's this kind of aspect. It just kind of aims for more of like hard rock cafe kind of bar hopping, just more this heavy rock type bars as opposed to like the more alternative metal sheens of some of their earlier albums. I'd say it's just, and that's the thing about this product, it's not so much post grunge. It's another thing about it. I mean, there's a little bit of that on here, but a lot of this more shifts to like alternative rock, and in minor senses hard rock, just within a relative sense, just within a relative type sense. But this is a good song. It has like that club type appeal, but it's just a different aspect. It's just a little bit more just loud pack compared to Kryptonite's just more edgy kind of moodiness, I'd have to say. But Still Alive is the second single. It's another quality one here. It's like a chugging kind of get shit done kind of day shift commute, I'd have to say about this one. Basic bustle about this song. Traditional kind of post. It's like some traditional kind of post grunge makeshift kind of get here. So this one, standard fare, just something that Three Doors Down has done with songs like Duck and Run, some of those type pitches. I would have to say just the same concept just within that. They've done it on every one of their albums, just a cruise along just within a more highway type sense, travel type sense, pitches like that, get some stuff done, get those pitches kind of taken care of as far as aspects to just get your shit done through the day and just have like these errands taken care of and get tasks wrapped up and some of that type of just busy days can get knocked out with songs like these. And they do have more than a few. There's definitely, if you do like the song Still Alive, there are plenty of songs that kind of have that particular aspect just within that tone. So just traditional Three Doors Down in a more bustling type sense, just like Duck and Run from their Better Life album. And then The Broken is a quality one as well. This is kind of a differential type one. This is an interesting pitch kind of pick for like a single here. It's kind of a peppy type one or an uplifting one, which is a good concept. It's a good aspect behind how they nailed that. Basically, there's like some moody kind of makeshift armor, I would have to say about this one. Just a gusty day kind of traverse, I'd feel like here. Quality radio grab, I would feel like definitely within the pitch behind it. And this delivers like some connecting kind of workaday type vibes. This kind of concept of just saying stick through it. It's not so much just saying like you got to tough it out, but it's just kind of the concept of actually lifting you up back on your feet and keep your head up type stuff, like Tupac would say, some of that type fare, just with an aspect of actually trying to make a difference and trying to cheer you up and just be a little bit more like got your back type tone just within the pitch behind it. So it's a little bit more genuine within the pitch behind it, but I do like the aspect of kind of seeing this particular song, just an affable type one. It has like some of that gusty kind of standard post grunge type appeal about it, just traditional from like 2000, 2002, 2005, Three Doors Down, with the pitch of just like having like some good, uplifting lyrics that actually nail it, don't have like cheese factor about it. So it's good concept. But the thing about it is there are 11 songs on here, and out of those 11, I wound up recommending 8. But just to say on top of that, there's actually a deluxe edition which has 2 extra songs. But I listen to those songs. I don't recommend those. Just to be able to say it's this kind of concept that both Found Me There and Walk Before You Run were just kind of lousy type ones that just didn't really enhance the product that much. I kind of feel like these were more homely type ones, and just kind of the concept that they just did not really have much jolt of energy to really provide about Three Doors Down strengths to like the aspect that they needed. But the 3 songs I don't recommend on here to talk, the 3 songs by Three Doors Down I don't recommend on the standard edition would just be Believe It, Living in Your Hell, and Pieces of Me. So basically, Believe It I didn't recommend because this was just kind of a coming of age type song. I just didn't as full blown recommend just within the pitch behind it. I did like the instrumentation type fair. It had pretty good band work on this particular song. It was another up tempo type one to kind of get here, but it's just kind of within the aspect. It just felt a little bit cheesy within the aspect that kind of more talking from like a more youthful setting as far as that particular kind of went. I mean, I realized that they probably do need songs like that, but it just didn't really have much kind of composition as though the aspect just probably should have just been like a more normal type song. Living in Your Hell is just kind of one. Living in Your Hell is just kind of a more homely and straightforward type one that I just didn't vibe with this much. And then Pieces of Me was just kind of the same type pitch and manner as far as that particular kind of went along with it. It was just kind of, this one kind of switched it back to like the modernized type fare. I just didn't really appreciate the kind of more, got a kind of a tone. It just had too much atonement about it on this particular song. It was just more of like the kind of lyrics, more unctuousness that I just didn't appreciate off of their 2005 album 17 Days. As far as those pitches kind of happen, just a more modernized type tone. Just takes it back to some of those type vibes, but just didn't nail it. It's the same kind of chipperness that just was not as affable. That's kind of thing. But I look after it. They do have some of their moodiness here. So if you do miss things from like Away from the Sun, like I do, I would definitely say there are some moments for that. I feel like some of these type ones, like Inside of Me, is a real nice one for that. It's like a sullen and kind of disgruntled pop rock grab. I would feel like here, traditional kind of Three Doors post grunge. I'd have to say definitely some moody dredge to kind of get here. And it's pretty super song. So it's just an aspect. This is the sort of song I realized that Three Doors Down just didn't want to relish in this particular type of stuff to just have these strictly be the best moments and them to be typecast is the only thing they're good at. These definitely are some of the soaring type ones. It's the overall aspect, just those kind of cloudy, gusty type days like post grunge when you're just out and about in like a more kind of just cloudy kind of September, October, hazy day, pitches like that. I'd say it's a good concept, kind of get some of that makeshift, just get some tasks done, pick up some Burger King, some stuff like that, just standard cruise around, just some of that type fare and just kind of ruminating. This album doesn't ruminate as much as like previously, but at least songs like Inside of Me and Fell from the Moon kind of do that. And speaking of Fell from the Moon, this is another quality type one. This takes it back to Away from the Sun as well. It's like a real nice owning up and heavy as the head pop rock type ballad. I'd have to say about this one. This is real It's like a real radio friendly but catchy Three Doors Down to kind of get here. So I just appreciate the concept of it. It's really nailed the aspect of kind of being a loser. I do like some of these type tones. And Three Doors Down will have songs like Loser and Fell from the Moon where you don't win or some pitches like that, and you just get the aspect of having like some good context of just saying, hey, if you lose like the contest or the ball game or something like that, just being able to say that you just have the tone and just not having so much like a horrid day and just being able to get towards it and just jump back on your feet in some of those type tones. It's an excellent type pitch, good aspect there. I Don't Want to Know is a quality one as well. It's like a hazy kind of golden summer evening. I'd have to say about this one, some summer evening rouse kind of get here. Just a romantic type one, just within the pitch behind it. Basic kind of light lick trekking and routine kind of song to kind of have for some of that. The standard commerce just after workshop pitches like that, 4:30, 6:30 p.m. when like the sun is setting, some of that type tone. And this is just a vanilla type song kind of get within that pitch. Just standard wrap up errands, hit up bass, some of those type tones just be able to have with just within the aspect behind it. Standard basic kind of in between type moments. And then Love is a Lie is a quality one. Now some of these are the more up tempo ones I was talking about, just like Still Live and some of those type pitches. And there are other ones like Living in Your Hell and Believe It that kind of have those tones, but I don't recommend those. But Love is Lie goes well with In the Dark. I'd have to say the lead single, and this is like a night hopping and pub crawl type regular turn up to kind of get here. And it's like some basic kind of loud pack. So this is a nice one. The song is a nice one, but it's a little bit straightforward just within the pitch behind it. I do like this particular song, but in terms like a standard shuffle as to how oftenly it come up, it's not like I would skip this song too oftenly, but it's just kind of within the pitch. It's just a little bit more. It has more straightforward type tones. It's a nice one, but I do think songs like Duck and Run and like some of the songs that they did that are singles that have this tone, like Still Alive, just have a little bit more immediate vibe. But it is a stock one to kind of get. It's like some good loud pack to kind of have for like a craze night. This would be another one is to kind of play out some. I mean, there's enough songs on this disc to be able to pick like 5 or 6 of these on here and just have like a blistering kind of bar hopping night just to get crunk and have some beer, some of that type tone. So this would just be an extra type one for like some filler noise and white noise. This kind of works for that. And Us in the Night's a nice one as well. The title track, it's like a nice house party riff edge, great local around the neighborhood excitement to kind of get here, and this is a good crowd pleaser. So they imply within the song that this has a little bit more night cruise around, which I do think within the relative sense it can kind of be like some good night commerce just within the pitch behind it. But I also look after this like a real nice one to kind of just a more Apple type tone to kind of have more local bound type stuff. Just to kind of have, I feel like the riff, the way that the snarl and the riffage kind of goes on here, this is one of the more vicious type ones that just a little bit more, just has a little bit more social friendly aspect about it. Not quite as bustling, not quite as like amongst like the work shift and more commerce kind of get shit done type tones. This kind of the aspect, just a little bit more kickback and a little bit more settled in. So it's just kind of the concept behind it. But really works like a blistering kind of house party type one. So I have to say. So in terms of what I'm going to score this out, me recommending once again 8 out of 11 on here or 8 out of 13. The standard edition of this album, I'm going to give an 8.5 out of 10. But the deluxe edition, I'll probably 8 out of 13. I'd probably give like a 7.25 just within the pitch behind it. I just look after it. It's disappointing that the deluxe edition didn't have really much more quality hits. It's not really that much worth of an investment. I'd say just didn't really nail the tone of some of these type ones. It's just kind of the homely type pitch, just more songs like Pieces of May and Believe It, some of those type tones that just have more personal type ones from like their 17 days type aspects and just kind of more center type pitches that just don't really deliver upon much. This is kind of the tone behind it. But yeah, the standard edition is relatively close to being a classic. I mean, just if I would have appreciated one and a half more songs, it probably would have damn near gotten a 10 out of 10. 8.5 is definitely, I don't usually typically give out 8.5 out of 10. It's not to say like I wouldn't, but this is not as frequent that comes up. It usually winds up being like a 9.5, 10, something like that. 8.75, but 8.5 kind of feels like a low score, but it really isn't. So I'm trying to say just within that, it's kind of the aspect that 8.5 is really extremely good. I'd have to say this is kind of the concept. But if I did appreciate Believe It a little bit better, it'd probably be up to like a 9 out of 10, just to be able to say that 9 out of 11 would be pretty damn close. I at least like the composition of Believe It. It's just more the lyrics tone behind that one, but maybe that one would grow on me. But this kind of happens to be a thing. So the social score, that's kind of tricky. I think I'll give the social score like a solid 8 out of 10. I just would have to say within the pitch behind it. I mean, it has these bops on here. Definitely has the bustle of some of these. They're definitely trying to bar hop more on this particular product. Just a little bit more of social commotion. I think it probably needed more songs like Us in the Night, the title track for like some house party type fare. Has the standard makeshift kind of bustles, some of that type tone, just chugging along. Songs like Duck and Run and Still Alive, some of those type pitches I'd have to say. Some good moody moody, gusty day type songs in like a traditional kind of post grunge sense, like Inside of Me, Fell from the Moon, some of those type ones. Good enough pitch. I mean, they nail their strengths on here. It's just kind of within the aspect that I just feel like the distinction behind some of these. I just feel like it continues to be like songs like Kryptonite and Here Without You, and some of the ones from like 17 Days just have a little bit more biting aspect. It's just kind of the tone. It's just more familiarity. But I definitely think there's some good ones on here. It just has the aspect of being social, actually having the tone behind it, but it's just kind of the aspect that I just think that probably some folks would just complain about the riff. It's just the fact that Matt Roberts and like his prime was not around just within that pitch behind it, but it does deliver for the most part. So in terms of the future, and Chet Roberts definitely has some great riffage on here, just to say that. But in terms of the future, like, yeah, this is the most recent Three Doors Down album. Unfortunately, just would have to say, hopefully we get to some more of these. But in terms of that, the only thing left I haven't reviewed is just their Christmas album. And there might actually be like an EP or something, but for the most part, there is not terribly much left to review by them. I've reviewed every one of their standard studio albums, so I would just check out the playlist for some of that, including their greatest hits, which has some new stuff on there. So I'll get to these last couple products, and we'll have that taken care of. So just check out this playlist.